Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I'm going to paint a colorful autumnal wreath. This is going to be my last autumnal card, as from next week I'm starting with Christmas cards. Although by just changing colors of this wreath you can make this card into a Christmas card if you want. Here are most of the products I will be using. The full list of the products is over on my blog. I painted a wreath twice before already. One I painted last year for Christmas and one I painted for Mother's Day. As you can see, the wreaths are almost the same, so this time I wanted to do something different. What I decided to do is to paint few separate branches that go in circle, and each branch I will paint in different color. I first drew a circle. I used a compass for that. If you don't have a compass, you can also use a glass, for example. And then I started painting. I started painting a curved thin line. You can use a tip of your round brush, but I recently bought a brush with thin long bristles, and I bought it exactly for this purpose, to draw thin lines. Next, I started painting the individual leaves. I used a round brush in the size 8. Maybe size 6 would have been better, but I just like this brush because it has a really pointed tip and I don't have it in the size 6. But you always need to experiment with the brushes. Not all brushes fit every purpose. As you can see, I started with the red paint, and while I was trying to paint the leaf in 2 strokes, I had to correct it and round it up with more strokes using the tip of my brush. I might have said this a few times before, I'm a little bit intimidated by painting leaves. I think I just watch way too many Instagram reels where people paint perfect leaves and I just struggle recreating it. But recently I noticed not all of them do that, so that gives me a little bit of hope. I like to paint in a way that feels comfortable to me, and as long as I like the result, who cares how many strokes I needed, right? And if I didn't tell you this story, nobody would know. So the next branch of leaves I painted in orange, and again I painted a thin line with my long bristle brush. I still need to practice using this brush because you need to be quite light-handed in order to achieve the thin strokes. Also, I think I mentioned this in my previous videos, the last 2 paints, the browns, are a little bit weird, and I had troubles when painting, not just with the thin lines. If anybody is using the Winsor & Newton watercolors, let me know if you have the same problems. Anyways, I pretty much repeated the painting process on each branch of the leaves. I will speed up the video and play some music so you can see the whole process, and I will be back once I'm done. So the painting is done, and now I'm going to make it into a card. I decided to add a greeting in the middle of the wreath that I will heat emboss. I'm using a stamp that says with love, but you can use a different sentiment depending on the occasion or leave out the greeting altogether. By the way, I also added a splatter across the panel and I didn't press the record button, but there are other videos where you can see me to add the splatter. So I treated the cardstock with anti-static powder, then I stamped it with the Versamark ink and I sprinkled the embossing powder over it. This is the metallic copper from Wow. And lastly, I melted the powder with my heat tool. I always feel like the panel needs some kind of a border, and the easiest here was to use the watercolor paints, in this case brown. I used my brush to apply the paint along the edges of the panel, but this step is completely optional. By the way, you do not need to paint a circle wreath, you can paint an oval shape, for example. I made an example card like that and you can see it here. I like it, but I still prefer the circle. And I also tried painting a similar wreath like the one I did for Christmas and Mother's Day. It's not bad, but I do prefer the one I painted in this video. I adhered the panel on top of a card base that I made out of a craft cardstock, and the card is finished. If you would like to see more autumnal card inspirations, check out the playlist with all of my autumnal cards. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comments. And also, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss my Christmas card series that I'm starting next week. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you soon.